My name is Don Toner. I'm the director for the Strategic Projects Division Right-of-Way Office, and we've been doing the strategic projects and delivery of the PPP projects for the last 17 years as part of TxDOT's Turnpike Authority Division first, and then we transitioned to the Austin District for a little while, and then we came back to the Texas Turnpike Authority Division, and then a couple of years ago, TxDOT administration decided that we don't do turnpikes anymore, so we're going to be strategic, and so that's how we ended up being Strategic Projects Division. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the utility issues we've got. You'll see there's a couple of presentations there. We're going to talk a little bit about our design build delivery method of delivering right-of-way, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the interactions between us and our consultants, either through a PMC, which is a program management consultant, or a design build contractor, or DBC. So it's a good program, and I want to thank you guys for coming out today. TxDOT is always very, very aggressive on our safety, so I wanted to start this meeting with a safety moment as well. One of the things that we have as part of our session, or part of our responsibilities, is utilities. And we find that some of our utility subcontractors and the subcontractors are some of the weaker links that we have within the safety protocols. So we want to make sure that if you guys are out there, you utility folks are out there, and you've got utility contractors, you know your vendors, and they've got their subs out there, please, before they take action on a job, make sure they've got all the safety protocols and they're part of the prime contractor's safety program. It's an important aspect. TxDOT is really concentrated on safety. It's important for all of our workers to be part of the safety program, and we want to make sure that that program is extended out to all the subs that are involved. One of the things that we also want to make sure is that our utility contractors are very careful and they don't trespass. We've had a lot of issues over the last few years about utility contractors. They deliver a bunch of pipe and they see this big open field and they deliver a truckload full of pipe and it just spills out and it rolls onto the property owner's property. That's not fair and that's not right, and those are property interests that we have not purchased. So we want to make sure that all of our deliveries are controlled and they're placed within the project right-of-way. Want to make sure that we understand that those are property takings if we trespass on somebody's private rights. So anyhow, but safety is important, and making sure we're all part of that solution. I wanted to start off a little bit, and I'm going to go through a little bit of a kind of an overview. When John Barton asked us to make this presentation, part of the presentation for right-of-way, and then there's a whole other session on design build contracting and the PPP project that Frank Holtzman from SPD is putting on for some of the other engineering operations. So I want to start with a little bit of basics. You know, you guys all know what PPP is, but a CDA, for those that don't know, a comprehensive development agreement, you're going to see it, maybe hear some of that terminology here today. The DB, we have a design build, different from the normal TxDOT delivery of highway projects, in that a design bid build is the normal methodology, and on that type of methodology, obviously it's design, it's bid separately, and then it's contracted, and the construction starts through the bidding process. And on a design build, we ask one vendor to do all of that. We ask one vendor to prepare the design sheets, do all of the right-of-way mapping, do all the utility coordination, prepare the right-of-way, and construct the facility. So an effort on that regard is to reduce the number of change orders, because you don't have a design contractor fighting against a construction contractor, because they're going to blame each other. On a design build effort, we got one contractor and whoever designs it, they got to build it that way. So we've been very successful in delivering a bunch of big projects using design build as a delivery method, and we've had a lot of luck with minimizing change orders or disputes or conflicts, again, because they're designing within internal forces, and then the constructing with internal forces, and they have only one person to go to, themselves, to solve the problem. So it's really an interesting methodology. It's been very successful. It's been used for many, many, many years, and we're going to continue the process. I won't spend any time on the D-bomb, but it's when we actually ask a vendor to operate the toll road or the turnpike or whatever, the managed lanes, and then also, so they're going to operate it and maintain it, and that's for a much longer term and a much different relationship. The concession model, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on that, but you might hear some references between the two. Concession is actually when our vendor not only does the design and the construction, but they bring the financing with it, and they fund the program. We've been pretty successful on that methodology also. We opened 5 and 6 a couple of years ago on State Highway 130. That's been operating for, gosh, 5 years now, I think. This past year, we did the North Tarrant Express project up in the Fort Worth area, and that project is open and operating as well under a concession delivery, where they brought funding and now they manage that project for the next 50 years or 48 years. And they retrieve the revenue from the tolls to help pay off the investment that they put in the front end. So anyhow, you'll see some of that. There's been a lot of talk about the loss of SPD or the loss of the design build methodology or the concession models or the CDAs. What we have is a very aggressive program that still is in place, and I want to dispel some of those discussions. I want to make sure that everyone understands that, yeah, there has been a legislative session, and there was a reaction to some toll issues, and so we're still looking at some of those projects, and we're finding alternative funding that's beyond the scope of the Prop 7 issuance that's coming up in November. Yes, sir?
No, I just got, do you know if we can dim the lights? It's kind of hard to see the screen.
Is it too? Yeah, I guess we'll try and do that. Yeah, thanks. Anyhow, so we are looking at lots of different funding sources, but the design build model is intact and it continues on. We have a large contingency of our strategic projects division that is putting forth a lot of projects. You'll see several procurements that are in place right now, or underway right now. Some of you guys might be working on various teams. We're not going to talk about any of those specific projects specifically, but as a collective group, in pre-procurement, there's almost $8 billion worth of work that's on the drawing board in various lists or various desired project development. We're looking at, in procurement right now, we're working on almost, well, $3.5 billion worth of work, and some of that stuff has already been procured this year, so the slide's a little bit old, but some of that stuff's already been procured. We've already got through 288 down in Houston. Harbor Bridge is moving forward, and so that was another almost $1 billion. And underway right now, in what we call our design construction mode, we've actually got $10 billion of work in place underway right now through the Strategic Projects Division and the Dallas District with the Horseshoe. So that's a huge contingency of projects. So the list is, as far as our overall project list, we've got a lot of work going on. And then in the operation and maintenance, which you guys don't really care about, but TxDOT SPD is still managing those concession projects I talked about earlier, as well as like projects like segments 1 through 4 on State Highway 130. That's an operation and maintenance project right now. And so we will continue to develop those and operate those. This is just a list. I'm not going to go through all these projects, but in procurement, we're working on Grand Parkway down in Houston on the segments H and I. That's, already teams are formed up on that. We're working diligently to try and get a bid, proposals are due coming up pretty quick this end of this month or early part of next month. Southern Gateway up in Dallas. We're working on 249 down on the Aggie Expressway between Houston and College Station. And then 280, US 281, actually that one has just gone back, and that's gonna be a design bid build project through the San Antonio district. This is just a little bit about how the project progresses. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on it, but as a sample on the Grand Parkway project, FNG, you see how the timeline lapse to get a design build contractor in place. This, the time that it takes to do and that project was $1.4 billion worth of work. But in order to get a design build contractor in place, it's a year process, or 10 months to a year process. What we want to do is take advantage of that year of time to start working on right-of-way maps, start working on buying strategic parcels that might help progress the project. And so you'll see TxDOT SPD get involved in some of the acquisition of parcels during the timeline as we're procuring. The reason we're doing the design build effort is to transfer risk. That transference of risk costs money because no one's going to take on risk without being compensated for it. But it's all about risk transference, and it's all about making sure that we contract with a vendor that has the appropriate understanding, the credentials, and the wherewithal to handle the risk. So we draft our documents and our technical provisions and our specifications very carefully and very cautiously in order to manage that risk. We're transferring the risk. We understand there's going to be a cost for it, so we want to make sure we appropriately transfer that risk and get that to the people that can handle it best. If it's a TxDOT issue, if we should contain that risk, we're happy to do that, and we want to manage that aspect of it. But if there's a way for us to transfer the risk to the design build contractor, our technical provisions, our specifications, and the various documents in the design build agreement do just that. And then part of our job is to manage the workload that we've just transferred to the vendor. That vendor is going to be busy doing right-of-way acquisition and have lots of different workers out there. It's part of TxDOT SPD's responsibility to manage that work, to make sure that they're fulfilling all the obligations in the right-of-way manual, all the obligations under the Uniform Act, state statute, all of the provisions that we set forth in the technical provisions and the specifications. But it's our job as SPD oversight to make sure that they still deliver a product that meets our needs and fulfills all of the scope and can stand the test of time and audit. So, but we manage risk every single day. We look for opportunities. We look at ways to build a project quicker and faster. But even though we have someone else doing all the work for us, even if they are bringing the funding to the project, all of the parcels are bought in the name of the state of Texas, buying through the Transportation Commission. So we manage that, make sure that it's clear and everyone understands that. We also oversee project design and approve the project design. Obviously, the schedule is a lot on the developer, but we want to make sure that they manage and maintain a schedule that's appropriate and that we provide appropriate times for our property owners according to Senate Bill 18 and various other rules and regulations. But it also allows us to control cost. When we do a design build contract, there's one cost. We have a bid that includes all the design, all the right-of-way acquisition, all the utility adjustments, all the construction for one price. Condemnation is controlled through the Attorney General's office, and TxDOT manages to facilitate the conversation between our design build contractor and the Office of the Attorney General. We provide all the guidance and oversight, and we sign off on every single deal before it's offered to the property owner. And we also manage all of the utility contracts, and we sign the utility agreements as a third party beneficiary, and I'm sure you guys will talk about that a little bit later. But it's been a very positive approach. When we transfer all of that work to the developer, they've come up with unbelievable ideas on how to save time and save schedule and save costs by trying to design around existing utilities. And it's been very, very beneficial to the program. We still have all the same rules as I talked about earlier. We work diligently and directly with Right Away Division. We work with the Attorney General's office. We work with all of our design groups. We are actively engaged with the district and the district engineer, the regional mobility authorities if they're involved, the council of governments if they're involved, city and county managers or county judges. We are diligently trying to make sure that even though this project is a SPD assigned project, we understand that it takes more than a village, it takes a whole community to build a project. And so part of what we do is work through a lot of those issues. The Attorney General's office, they handle all of our condemnation and all of our jury work. As I talked a little bit about, these are some of the same things I already mentioned. We have a very detailed comprehensive development agreement document and a design build document. There are two different documents because of the nature of the type of project and how it's going to be delivered. But we work hard and we try and incorporate lessons learned on a regular basis. So as we learn something or something comes up, we put together a team and we actually go in and change the procurement documents and the technical provisions and hopefully incorporate that issue into the next drawing. These are some of the awards that we've won on some of the projects. The projects, because of the magnitude, have been very successful and compete very effectively nationwide. And the teams that we've been able to bring together have done some wonderful things to develop and deliver the project ahead of schedule, under budget, and in an aggressive standpoint, trying to be very, very sensitive to the community's needs, the traffic closures, the bridge closures, very, very aggressive public relations effort. Our work is very much tied to the businesses that are affected by our program, and so we work hard, and that's allowed us to have a lot of good success. That's kind of a quick overview. I want to leave a lot of the material for our team, our speakers here to handle. But again, I want to say thanks for coming out this morning, or this afternoon.